Hey Facebook peeps. So I'm just out and about for the day and figured I'd do a short video just to go into a little bit more about my program, the Sacred Dance of Healthy Dominance and Submission. Someone recently asked me, like, where did I come up with the whole concept of, it being a dance? And, for a lot of people that know me, I've pretty much been harping on the whole balance thing for a long time. I know a lot of people call themselves light workers. I tend to call myself a balance worker because I've always been middle of the road with everything, with politics and religion, spirituality, all that stuff. But I've always been obsessed with that whole theme of light and dark, good and evil, since I was a kid. I think my very first film that introduced me to that was the film Legend by Ridley Scott. But, it's really played a heavy part in relationships for me. And so, in the last few years, I've been blogging a lot about that dynamic of balance of the masculine and feminine energy in relationships and within ourselves and within society in general. Like, everything in life is about balance. It's like the film Koyaanisqatsi. I don't know if I said that right. I probably butchered it. But it's essentially a life out of balance. And, I feel like for years I've thought this, that just the whole planet, the whole system is out of balance. And so that's kind of like the foundation of my work, is bringing everything into balance within ourselves, within our relationships, and within the world. And that in itself creates more intimacy. So that's part of it, why I created the program. And another aspect of it that I haven't really talked about was goes further back into like my younger college days. It was summer of '99. It was the last summer right before my last semester of college. And I saw that Arthur Murray was hiring for dance instructors. They wanted to train people to teach their steps, but they weren't paying anything. They figured the dance itself was payment enough. So I signed up. I didn't have anything else to do that summer, so I went and got the training. But then school started and I had like 19 semester hours and I was doing 60 hours in the scene shop. So something had to go. So I gave up the dance, which I regret to this day because I really loved it. And it was challenging for me, but it was something I was really passionate about. But there were some things that I learned from that it took me years and years to really start to incorporate into my life. So one aspect of that was that we only had one male instructor, and he was rarely ever there. So he popped in from time to time and would work with us, but for the most part it was me and one other girl that were always practicing with each other. Now, for a couple that goes and gets ballroom dance training, the man just has to learn the man's part and the woman just has to learn the woman's part. But when you're going to be an instructor, you have to know both. And so for me, the biggest challenge with that wasn't the dance steps themselves. It was doing the part of the female. It was allowing myself to be led on the dance floor. I'm sure a lot of people probably heard that saying that everything Fred Astaire did, Ginger Rogers did backwards and in heels. And having taken that training, I can see like she really had the more challenging role in all of that. Because you're going backwards, you can't see where you're going, and you're in heels, and you don't know, like, if the person that's leading you, if they're not a strong lead, you might fall, you might break an ankle, you might hurt yourself. So every time I had to do the man's role, I felt really comfortable. It flowed. The dance really flowed. And this girl was like 6 foot tall and I'm 5'2". So even though there was like this huge height difference, it still felt natural for me to lead her across the floor because I was in control. And for somebody that was operating so heavily from my masculine energy for so long and always needing to be in control, that felt right for me. Whereas she was more in her feminine energy. So that flowed, me leading her. But when she would leave me, I always met her with resistance. So she'd push and I'd push. And she wasn't a very strong lead. And I felt that. So I never felt safe or secure in that dance with her. But every time the man would come in for, to practice with us, he was so strong in his masculine and in his ability to lead that my resistance meant nothing, because I still resisted him. But he was strong enough to lead me anywhere he wanted to take me on that dance floor, and it flowed and it felt amazing, because even though I was resisting and I was scared, he was confident, and that dynamic plays out so much in regular relationships, if you think about it. A man's ability to lead confidently and be that safety for that woman is huge. It's really hugely important in a relationship. But the thing that stuck out the most about that was my female instructor, some advice that she gave me. And she said, Jen, you have to get comfortable with allowing yourself to be led across the dance floor. Otherwise, the men are never going to effectively be able to learn their part. So let me repeat that. You have to learn how to allow yourself to be led across the dance floor. Otherwise, the men can't effectively learn their part. That's life. That's the dance. And that started to dawn on me about 8 years ago, when I took my hiatus from men and I stopped dating, and I said, I am tired of pursuing. I'm tired of always being the one to pursue men in relationships, because it's not healthy. It always ends up with me being the giver, me being the masculine, the man in the relationship, when my true self really wanted to be the feminine, because that's who my true self was, the feminine. That's who I was before my childhood trauma. And then the trauma forced my masculine to step in and become the protector. And that's the masculine that I rooted into. So then I went into all these relationships in my 20s, and I'd say, why, God? Why? Why do I keep attracting broke and broken men? Why? What's wrong with me? Why do I keep attracting that? Why can't I meet a good guy? Why can't I meet a guy that has his shit together? And then I'd realize, well, hey, you know what? I did have those guys. I had guys that had a good job, made money, had their shit together, treated me like gold, didn't need me to take care of them in any kind of way. And those are the guys that I retracted from. Those are the guys, the relationships that I sabotaged. And it was, all through my 20s, I dated guys like this. I would go up to a guy in a bar and be like, hey, can I buy you a drink? And the majority of them would be like, yeah, sure. And every one of them ended up being broke and broken. And that became the dynamic of the relationship, of me doing it all. Me always paying the bill, always making the plans, calling them, initiating sex. They were in their feminine and I was in my masculine. So they just allowed me to take care of them. And then one day I met a guy in a bar, and I went up to him and I asked if I could buy him a drink. And he's like, no, but I could buy you one. And so I was like, cool, great change of routine here, And we spent a few not dates, but nights where we hung out at the club just talking and drinking. They weren't really dates. But then he asked me out on a real date one day. He said, can I take you to dinner this weekend? I was like, yeah, sure. But me, with my little masculine brain, operating from that, that unhealthy world of feminism at the time, I was like, I didn't allow him the space to be the man. I didn't allow it to register that he said, hey, let me take you to dinner. So when he went to the bathroom, I handed the waitress my credit card and said, hey, I'll take care of it. I got it. And when he came back and we finished our drinks and we sat for a little while and he asked for the bill and he realized I paid it, he was pissed. He was like, why did you do that? I invited you to dinner. Why did you do that? I was like, I gave my bullshit response. Well, you're a guy. Just because you're a guy doesn't mean you have to pay all the time, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, I'm sorry, but next time you could pay if you want, no big deal. I didn't see the big deal with it, right? Because I was so independent, so fiercely independent. I didn't want a guy taking care of me in any way. There wasn't a second date. He never called, and I never called him, because we're both operating from a masculine, right? So we both ghosted in a sense. It was like he was competing, his masculine was competing with my inner masculine for my feminine. And I've seen this dynamic with my friends too. I had a girlfriend who, the broken relationships went on and on and on and dragged out. And when she had a good guy, someone that had his shit together, that didn't really need her, they didn't last long. Her cap was about 2 months. I remember her saying with one of them, hey, it's time to get rid of him. I said, what do you do? Nothing. It's just time. It's going to turn to shit anyway, so let's just end it now. And I could not understand that at the time, but now I realize, because she was the same as me, always operating from a masculine, workaholic, always taking care of people. It's like we got into these relationships with men that had their shit together, that were in their masculine, and it was like, well, shit, they're in our role. We're doing that part. We're the masculine. We didn't know what to do with ourselves, right? Because we're so used to doing it all. And so, ladies, think about it. If you're asking yourself this question a lot, why can't I attract, guys that have their shit together? Well, what energy are you operating from? Are you operating from your masculine? Because if you're doing it all and you're not allowing him space to be the man in the relationship, if you're asking him out, you're pursuing him, you're calling him, you're asking him on dates, you're always initiating sex, blah, 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 you're the masculine. You're the one it's in control of the relationship, and you can't really sit back and complain that you can't find a guy that's manly and that's operating from his masculine, because you're not giving him the space to do it. And then the other thing to that is, we ask ourselves, why do we keep attracting narcissistic men, game players, manipulators, triangulators? Well, every time I've ever said that, I get people that respond with, well, that's because you're codependent. And I fought against that label for so long. I was like, I'm not codependent. I'm an extremely independent person. I'm like the guy. I've always said that. I'm like the guy in relationships. I don't need a morning, noon, and night text. Just, go about your day, have your day. I'm going to have my day. I'm going to see you tonight. You don't need to be up my ass all day. I am fiercely independent and I like my space. But, anytime somebody would say, well, you're codependent, I'd throw that up there and be like, no, I really am not. I'm not clingy. I don't really need people. But then I realized that there's 2 types of codependence. So there's codependent A, which is the clingy, needy type that can't be alone. These are the people that typically cheat a lot because they got to make sure that they have their next person lined up before they get rid of the one that they're with. They can't just end a relationship and be single for a while, because they have that fear of scarcity. What if I never find anybody again? What if I can't be alone? They have to have somebody in their bed every night. It's a neediness kind of thing. And in a sense, narcissists do the same thing. They cheat a lot, and they always have to have their next person lined up. Sometimes they have several lined up, but it's not really for intimacy reasons. It's more for ego reasons. I always have to have somebody to stroke my ego, so I'm going to have 3 other people waiting in case this person dumps me, or I'm not getting my ego fed by them. So it's a little bit different of a dynamic. But then there's codependent type B, which I realize that I fall into, and those are the people that need to be needed, that need the validation, that need to be needed by someone to feel like they have a sense of purpose, self-worth and purpose. I need to feel like I'm taking care of this person and that they need me to feel like I have some kind of purpose, a reason to be, right? And for so long, I wasn't clear in my sense of purpose, because being a multi-potentialite, I have so many different things that I'm drawn to, that I wanted to do in life. And it wasn't until about 2 years ago when I really started feeling that pull towards my purpose and my passion that I started to really like back away from, you know, that codependency, like that need to be needed. I mean, I still have my moments of people pleasing and, you know, with certain people, but the more I step onto that path of my own purpose and getting clear on what I'm here to do, the less of a need I have to fill somebody else's purpose, like to be something to someone else, to, you know, be needed by them, to feel like I have a sense of purpose. So it's like I don't really want or need a man to need me. I want the kind of relationship I want is one where, you know, that person complements and flows and aligns with my purpose, passion, and path, in a sense. I mean, we don't have to be on the same path, but, you know, as long as we mesh, you know, and it's not about one taking care of the other. It's more of a mutual emotional support system than anything. But yeah, so if you are sitting back on why am I attracting these type of men, narcissistic men, or needy people that just need, you know, constantly need you for something or to take care of them, you're putting that out there in some kind of way. And, you know, if you're an independent person, you could still be a codependent. If you're somebody that needs to be needed, like if that fills you up and gives you a sense of purpose to be needed by somebody. And we all need that. Like, I mean, in a sense, you know, we're all here to fill a higher purpose. We're here to help people in some way. But for a lot of the codependent type Bs, we tend to make our whole world about one person and, you know, helping them. And that becomes our purpose. When really our purpose is so much bigger than that. It's you know, we're here to help a lot of people, not just one. But it starts with us, you know, we have to help ourselves first and realize where we're operating from, what energy that we're flowing from, and how to balance that. And so that's what my program is really going to be focused more about. I know, you know, people look at it and they say, it's just all fetish and sex. It's not. I mean, we'll get to that, but we really need to do the shadow work and figure out how to balance your energy in yourself and your relationship and bring that harmony back into it and figure out, you know, where you're operating from. You know, let's, you know, dive into that, because it's taken me years of doing this work on myself, and I still on a daily basis just uncover another layer, and I'm like, well, damn, I didn't know that was there. So yeah, so that's what the dance is about. You have to learn to allow yourself to be led across the dance floor in order for the men to effectively do their part, learn their part. And that's life. I mean, you just have to, if you're female, if you're a woman and you want to be the feminine in the relationship and you want a man to lead you, you have to give him the space to do that. So yeah, that's the dance. So allow yourself to be led sometime. Just, it's all about allowing and letting go and surrendering. But that's not easy to do if you don't have a strong male lead. So that's why it's equally important for men to be confident. You don't have to be perfect. You can be vulnerable. You can have your moments. You can cry. You can, you know, you don't have to be a perfect pillar of strength. But you do have to be safe. You have to be reliable, trustworthy. She has to be able to root into you and feel safe, that you can safely lead her across that dance floor. So if you want to learn how to do that, you know, inbox me. Let's see what we can do. You know, sign up for my program. Let's see how I can help you. And y'all have a great day. I'm out of here.